for you, both creatively but also technically, where or how do you get inspiration and look for ways to grow or challenge yourself?
So for a lot of my career, for my portraits, I've looked at the old masters like Rembrandt, Caravaggio's, because it's like from my standpoint, I think the masters, they were the pinnacle of art. Like they just did the best possible aesthetics.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like they reached a peak, which I feel like we might have lost a little bit. So I've always gone back to them for reference and inspiration to see if I could kind of capture what they did into digital format. Because their paintings, you can look at them today and they still feel alive. They're paintings, these are now dead people and they've not lived for hundreds of years, but you can connect humanly, emotionally with these paintings. And so that aspect, I wanted to take that and put that into my digital portraits. So I've been inspired a lot by that, by those masters. But now I'm trying to figure out how to, instead of being like copying that style, but just trying to figure out who I am and have my own voice rather than mimicking the masters. I feel like I've spent the last 7 years doing that, and now I'm really trying to push myself to do something different, do something new, something more. Mm-hmm. So for me, to find inspiration, it's like really it's just trying to outdo myself, like try to get better each time.
Cool, I like that. With your work, like whenever you're doing, let's go back to portraits, is there a lot of story or thought going into it other than obviously creating these amazing pieces, but also, you know, who they are and the thought that goes into it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of hard to see, but if you're looking at them individually, like I'm trying to express that person's identity, and there's like multiple ways you can do it through like clothing, through body language, through lighting. Like there's so many techniques to express somebody's identity. I'm trying to be honest about who they are, and so I get a good representation of them. But if you look at them as a collective, you can kind of start seeing that there's actually portraits of me. Like, because it's like, this is how I see each person. You see who's important to my life. You see who my friends are. You see who my family is. And you see how I see them. So as a collective, it's just like a representation of me. So it's like there's actually a lot of layers in them.
I like that. I like that a lot. I'm just getting deja vu, but I'm remembering there was like a tiny thumbnail. It was probably on LinkedIn or somewhere, but like literally a tiny thumbnail. Maybe it was Chris Nichols or something. I don't know, but it was something that was so tiny. But the fact that I just instantly recognized that person, even though it's, you know, microscopic and it's CG, but it's just like, oh, that's so and so. It's just to me in a lot of ways, like that's like a huge validation, just because it's like you're still connecting with that person as if you saw a tiny photo of someone that you recognize, but it's obviously, you know, a CG representation as well.
Yeah. I think when it comes to portraits, it's like there's a lot of levels in it, which is it's quite interesting to start discovering. Mm-hmm. Like just like for example, like Chris Nichols' portrait, like his pose is a way how it represents who he is. Like I have him like he also does podcasts. So
yeah,
I have
we tag team each other quite a lot. I'll jump on his and vice versa.
Yeah, so I have him like almost like sat at a table, his hands on his like temple. I wanted to give him the same vibe as Steve Jobs with his the photo of his hand on his chin. It gave us this like really like thoughtful, insightful. But Chris Nichols' portrait, you can tell he's not waiting to talk. He's not like, hey, I want to say my opinion. In the portrait, you can tell that he's actually listening to you. So as you look at the portrait, I wanted the viewer to feel like, oh, he's there to listen to what you have to say. And so everything I did in the piece is make you feel like you've got a voice.
Again, that's the story that goes behind the art. So I love that. I think it's so cool. I'm kind of curious, like going back to, let's say, not necessarily your first portrait, but one of your first CG characters, let's say, what was your process back then versus what your creative process typically is now?
It's relatively similar. Usually when I create my portraits, I'll do like a little photo shoot. So like when I first did my self-portraits, this is back 2014, I did a photo shoot of myself. It's kind of like almost like taking a scan. I do the whole 360 around. Just trying to get flat lighting, like no shadows, so I can use those photos for help with texturing. And then I just did a whole bunch of different poses. And then just to give an idea of what kind of style I wanted to go for. And then once I had all that photo references, I found an inspiration like a Rembrandt painting I liked, and I wanted to recreate the Rembrandt painting. So I kind of went through all my photography set and just chose the lighting which kind of matched it. And I kind of collaged this idea of what I wanted for portraits, and then I sort of started executing it. So that's kind of like my process. Obviously, Maya, Mudbox for modeling and texturing, Photoshop for some color corrections, V-Ray for rendering. Now we fast forward to like what I do now. It's relatively the same, but instead of, I used to take like 100 photos, now I take maybe 1,000 photos, 1,000 plus photos of each subject. I'll spend like 4 to 5 hours just taking photos of one person just to get every single detail. Like I got a much better camera now. I bought lights, like actual like stage lights. I got like a light wand, which I can use for different type of lighting styles. The programs have got a bit better. V-Ray's renderer is a bit better. GPU rendering. I can do more iterations, do them quicker. So it's almost like when I work, I'll do a render and then I'll fix the render and then I'll do another render and fix it. So it's, in a way, it's about fixing rather than building. Mm-hmm. So now with more iterations, I can do more fixes. So I can do like 1,000 portraits per portrait rather than just like 100 portraits per portrait.
I'm curious with the photos, like, are you doing that for photogrammetry or is it more just reference as well as for textures?
Just reference and texturing, yeah. I try not to use scanning too much because I've tried it in the past, but it ends up like I just end up having to do so much cleanup. It's actually just faster for me just to sculpt it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.